name is Crystal, and today we're going to be talking about human trafficking. So picture your life to be completely different and you grew up in Mexico. You're a 13-year-old female living in poverty with your parents. You are one of 7 children, therefore you are struggling to even be fed by your parents. One day you're strolling through the park and a man approaches you, asking you if you need a job. And desperately, you agree. He tells you that it's a modeling agency in the United States, and you are shocked that you are being asked to take this job, so you take it. A week later, you're taken to the United States, but instead of being met with an agency, you are met with a home full of 6 children, a mom and a dad, and you are forced into slavery. This is the fate of over 20 to 40 million people, according to the DoSomething.org. This, my friends, is called human trafficking. The official definition of human trafficking, according to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, human trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery in which individuals perform commercial sex through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. There are many levels of sex trafficking. The first one is called forced labor. So workers are vulnerable and in desperate need of money. So therefore, they endure the harsh situations that they are put in. They aren't fed, they aren't given a lunch break, they work 12 to 14 hours a day, and it's usually a citizen type thing. Immigrants are more likely to be treated this way. The next one that we have is bonded labor. So the trafficker tricks the employee into debt, so therefore they are bonded to them for life. Next, we have sex traffickers. So women are enslaved for their bodies, and the profit is not given to them, it's given to the pimp. Domestic workers, which is what I mentioned earlier. So this one is actually the hardest to identify since it happens in homes. Women and children are at highest risk, and they are subject to physical, sexual, and mental abuse. Forced child labor, selling and trafficking children for work. Children may go through but are not limited to involuntary servitude, debt bondage, or slavery. So many people and all of us are at risk for human trafficking, but there are some people who are more vulnerable to this. And it's usually children who grew up in a domestic violence, and they think that this behavior is normal, so they are groomed to be prostitutes, they are groomed to be slaves to other people, and it's usually people of higher class. Many times the pimp follows a girl around and they pretend to be their friend, their boyfriend. They even get married, and usually they're more able to get away with them just because family gets to know them, they trust them enough, and they end up falling in love with them. People with very low income, as I mentioned earlier, in the story that I mentioned, people with very low income are more likely to be tricked and manipulated into doing jobs that they might not normally do. So why is sex trafficking so popular? Money is a key factor of this business. The United Nations Office of Drugs estimates that the total market of sex trafficking is worth $32 billion. In some ways to identify human trafficking in a workplace is usually an employee will live with another employee. Multiple people are crammed in one living space, not being able to speak to individuals alone. So this usually happens with children. Usually children that are in human trafficking end up never being left alone, and if they are, they always have some scripted or rehearsed line that they must repeat to the other adult. There are signs of physical abuse and or submissive and fearful behavior. And if you find yourself to be in front of a potential victim, some questions that you can ask them is, can you leave your job if you wanted to? Have you been hurt or threatened if you tried to leave? Do you live with your employer? Where do you sleep and eat? Are you in debt to your employer? And do you have a passport or identification with you? If you believe that someone you know is a potential victim, call 911. Don't get yourself endangered. Some other things that you can do if you want something to be investigated You can call 1-888-373-7888. This is a national human trafficking hotline. Knowing the statistics and facts about human trafficking makes you more aware of how to identify it. We ask you to please not turn away. If you see something suspicious, please report it to the hotline or 911. Thank you so much for your time.